The Cowboys suffer the worst home loss since before Jerry Jones bought the franchise. And the Saints continue to bring me hope through the 4-game losing streak that they're in. Major League Baseball is in the middle of the LCS in the American League and the National League. And as soon as Manny gets in, we'll be doing our fix of 6. Welcome, everybody, to the Wednesday edition of Box Scores and Bourbon.
Look at the box scores.
Box Scores and Bourbon.
We check each other's box scores and scores online.
Baseball, box scores.
So football, baseball, basketball, soccer, hockey.
Box scores and bourbon.
This past weekend, the Dallas Cowboys suffered the worst home loss since before Jerry Jones bought the franchise. And if my numbers are correct, that was 35 years ago when he bought the franchise. Now, I had a lot of people, I had several on TikTok, come at me and say, "Oh, you're so pissed at this team. Why are you even talking about it? Why are you watching them? Oh, why don't you give me a shout out when Dallas pounces all over Detroit and Dak just rolls on them?" Well, for one thing, I talk about sports in a heated manner like I do because it's sports, and this is a sports podcast. So I will continue to watch sports, and I will most importantly continue to be irritated by bad football. Win or lose, I don't care. If it's incompetent, even if they get the W, if it's incompetent, it's bad football, and I don't like to watch it. And Dallas showed that they are nowhere near close to being ready to be in the playoffs this year, or to even not make a run, but to even be in the playoffs. They've shown me nothing that they're even willing or ready to be able to win the NFC East. And Lord knows we said it last week. I harped on it. This is a bad year of football. It seems like almost every game is just mid. Ugh. But the Cowboys can't seem to get it together. And it is ugly. I mean, for me, I enjoy it because I feel like the worst part about the Dallas Cowboys is sometimes it's the fans. You fans seem to not be attached to what I like to call reality. There's a reality to following a sports franchise. There's a reality to being able to follow a sports franchise for so long and to know exactly where you're going to land. There's nothing wrong with saying, "Oh, Dallas, they'll good regular season, they'll make the playoffs, probably won't make it far." Nothing wrong with that. But every time they have a great regular season, you guys immediately jump to them winning the Super Bowl. And they haven't done that in quite some time. It's been a long time since Dallas has come close to even making the Super Bowl. Now, me as a Saints fan, I'm going to juxtapose this. As a Saints fan, in the beginning of the season, after the Saints started 2-0, and they blew out Carolina and, yes, Dallas, I sat here and said, "Yo, Saints fans, chill out, okay? These are two bad football teams. You should play like this against bad football teams. Let's just give it a rest. Let's just be chill." And what happened? Derek Carr continued to be Derek Carr. He continued to just be completely irresponsible with the football. And that defense, it comes and goes. That offense is inconsistent. I love Clint Kubiak. I'm not exactly sure what this offense is supposed to look like when it's running at full speed, but there have been glimpses. We haven't seen them yet. But this 4-game losing streak New Orleans is in, I couldn't be happier. I've never been more hopeful. Hopeful that the Saints brass tear this thing down. The worst thing in my mind was that last Sunday, Spencer Rattler could have blown the doors off of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then the Saints brass think, "Oh, look at that. All we need is for him to perform like this, so wait for Derek Carr to be ready, and then we'll be good to go and we continue on." No. Rattler showed flashes of promise. He's got a ways to go. Trust me. But he showed flashes. But the fact that they got blown up and the brass was able to see this, and I'm hoping they just blow it up at the trade deadline. There's already been trades being made ahead of the new trade deadline. Let's hope the Saints are a part of that. And that's what I'm talking about. Reality. There's a certain reality when it comes to being a sports fan. And sometimes you have to sacrifice being called a bad fan of your team in order for you to live in that reality. In Dallas, I am calling you to do that. Well, as you guys can see, Manny is not here. I'm going to close this window right here. It's super windy outside. Manny's not here right now. He's on his way. We are doing a special Wednesday episode, and we're doing it right now because I'm taking the wife out to a dinner reservation tonight here in about an hour and 20 minutes. And we can't do it tomorrow because Manny will be on the flight back home to Albuquerque. So this was the best time for us to do it. I'm told he is on his way. He will be joining us here shortly. But in the meantime, let me cheer us in. Drinking this delicious Los Poblanos gin. It's a Western dry. For those not native to Albuquerque, Los Poblanos is so it's a little winery here. It's delicious, great food. And I bought this gin. They sell this gin there, so I'm gonna have me about a finger of gin before I go out and enjoy the night with the wife. But no, so well, cheers, folks. As I was saying, I got the Mets Dodgers pregame on right now. As I was saying at the top, this is not me trashing Cowboys fans. This is me inviting you guys into being able to come to a place where you just accept the reality. And of course, it's not all Cowboys fans. It seems to be the majority of them. The majority of them seem to not like at all any diss about their team. And I'm not quite sure how they live in this world that they live in. It must be nice. Must be nice to live in a world where, everything is just rosier than it is. It's been a long time since I wore rose-colored glasses, but I'm a fan of teams where I have to truly come to grips with where they are. I'm a Pelicans fan. I'm a Saints fan. I'm a Cubs fan. I'm plenty well versed when it comes to, okay, let's just roll back the expectations here for a second. And that's all I'm inviting you guys to. It's something to think about. How would you guys feel if the Dallas Cowboys ended up, I don't know, if they traded CeeDee Lamb for a running back and a receiver? If they traded CeeDee Lamb for two pieces that equal almost just about that amount that CeeDee Lamb would provide on the field, would you consider that? Because you guys have no run game. You have none. And that O-line is deteriorating. That used to be a great O-line. And now, kaput. Nothing there. So, and I'm bringing all this up also because, like I said, I'm a Saints fan, and I'm looking at what the Saints can do. I would love for the Saints to be able to take this season and win this division. But it seems like the Falcons are going to win on dumb luck every single week. The Buccaneers are going to hang in there. And we all know who the Panthers are, but I've got no idea who the Saints are anymore. I don't think the Saints understand who they are. I think they have an idea of who they'd want to be. I think they know they want to be a high-powered offense. They want to be an offense that is consistently pushing down the field, not having to rely on the deep ball, but you can, continue to use backs like Kamara, in the eye, but then also flanked out in the slot and being able to throw to him. And do a slant, maybe sit there, throw a little, behind the line pass to him, get a little block, run down the field, something like that. But I'm hopeful that the Saints end up tearing this down. And do I think that's going to happen? No, I don't. Sadly, it's because um, Mickey Loomis has really shown no desire to want to do that. They've operated with kicking the can down the road, so to speak, so often that I think they're okay with continuing to do this. They always have dead money on the books, and then what I want them to do, trading Derek Carr, is going to be a lot easier said than done. Um, the only team that maybe I could see would want to do that is possibly maybe Miami. Miami could be a spot for that where they don't really have a quarterback outside of Tua, and from what I'm hearing, I mean they want Tua back, but then they don't want him back. They don't want him ruining his career any further, or the or the or the probability of that of that increasing over time. So, um, I'm looking at the Saints hopefully trading Derek Carr, but he's got all that money. And then going back to Dallas, and I'll speak to this when Manny gets in, but um, trading a really hot commodity that you have for two smaller pieces. Um, Being able to sit there and say, yeah, I mean, we have a legit A type receiver here. We have a number one, but could this number one in fact help us better ourselves elsewhere? And I'm just bringing this up. I don't really have a destination for CeeDee Lamb to go to. I don't have an idea as to where exactly you could trade him to get that lesser receiver, uh, and that or to get a receiver and a running back that kind of can at least equal that production that CeeDee Lamb does. And I bring it up just because it's as much as Dak Prescott can succeed, and we've seen him succeed in the regular season, he needs a running game. He needs one bad. You've got no running game, and you can't just sit there and continue to just throw darts everywhere. Your offense becomes one dimensional. No matter how many times you run the football, you can run the football 12, 15, 20 times a game. If you're getting 50 yards a game on rushing, there's no defense that's going to fall for that. There's no defense that's going to sit there and be like, "Oh, guys, hey, wait for the play action." No, well, be careful. Let's hold back some of our guys up front just in case they hand the ball off. Who's going to do that? I mean, no sane team is going to do that. So I don't know. It's just one of those thought exercises. Because like I said, as a Saints fan, I think about it often. I think about how this team can be better if we just started over. We are long overdue, long, long, long overdue. So, but in some other NFL news, um, well, the Jaden Daniels wall came crashing down. Uh, Baltimore absolutely manhandled Washington, and Derrick Henry just went off. He went off, and I was watching that game, and I thought about someone made a statement that they said that when Jaden Daniels first came out, they said that he was going to have a better career than Lamar Jackson. And even when that was said, and even when it was repeated again right before this week's game, it seems ridiculous. Lamar Jackson is in a league of his own. He is worlds apart from most quarterbacks in this league, and there you can put him in the first tier, but even in that first tier, he has the edge on most of them just because of his skill set. So him being able to not just stand tall in the pocket and throw darts up the middle and to guide his receivers to where they won't get hurt, but and not even just him rolling outside and making passes outside the pocket. What he does with his legs is just incredible. That's why it's so dangerous for Baltimore. I mean, for the opponents of Baltimore, rather, that you got to face Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. You got to face both of them in the run game. And then you got to face Lamar Jackson as a quarterback. And so it really is a daunting task for any team, really. But going back to the Jaden Daniels comp, I love Jaden Daniels. I watched him at Arizona State. I remember that debacle, the way that his teammates or his ex-teammates treated him when he left for LSU. I remember that first year he was at LSU. I didn't even know. It almost seemed like Jaden Daniels didn't even know how to throw the football downfield. I mean, anything that was past 20 yards, it seems like he couldn't make a pass. And I'm like, my goodness, this is not good. This is not good at all. This was our best option. But Brian Kelly stuck with him. And the rest is history. And he comes out, he wins the Heisman on a really bad LSU team, and then ends up going number 2 to Washington, which I thought that was a really good spot for him. But to sit there and say that he was going to be like Lamar is way too soon. It's way too soon. Because even now, like you see Lamar with Baltimore, and there's plenty of moments where you can sit there and say that Lamar Jackson could achieve even more. I mean, obviously he can achieve more. He can win some playoff games, and he can get and win the Super Bowl, obviously. But being able to sit there and say that a rookie just coming in after winning the Heisman was going to come in and be just as talented as Lamar Jackson was just a little crazy. It fell on its face anyway, because, as much as I talk about Caleb Williams, I still believe he was the most talented quarterback. Caleb Williams he's got tangibles that are through the roof. But my take on why I picked Jaden over Caleb was because Jaden seemed to have gone through a lot already, a lot of adversity, and he seemed to handle it quite well in college. And Caleb Williams didn't really pass that test. He had all the talent in the world. He's got all the tangibles, but when it comes to the 5 inches that you have to win right here, the space between the ears, when this breaks down, there's really no telling what you're going to get. And not to say Caleb's going to falter or he's going to fail in Chicago. Being a Chicago quarterback brings its own unique challenges as it is. But it's going to take some time for me to be able to see whether or not he can actually uphold that, whether he can actually pull through. And I hope he does. I truly hope Caleb Williams becomes a staple in Chicago. I hope he becomes a staple in Chicago with Chicago in the playoffs. I mean, Chicago Bear football and meaningful football in December and then playoff football is wonderful to see. Such a storied franchise. I'd love to see Chicago there. So I'm pulling for him all the way. But I think just that right there, if you look at how they went through Caleb and then Jaden, that to sit there and say just that Jaden was going to have a better career than Lamar Jackson, I don't see it. I don't see it at all. And I'm not saying it can't happen, but to sit there and say that it will happen based off of, at that time, nothing. No, I don't see it. And it's a disservice to Lamar Jackson too. Lamar Jackson's a great quarterback. Lamar Jackson is unbelievable. And even when he came out of college, they were like, I don't know if he's got it. I don't know if he's going to transfer. I don't know if those tangibles are going to transfer over to the pro style. And well, obviously it did, and it has big time. So, I want to transition. I mean, not out of football, but I do want to. There was, what is this? There we go. I'm looking for the scores for last week, and I'm starting to be concerned with with Anthony Richardson. Um, I was really hoping that he would stay healthy this season. I really was. And I'm not saying he can't come back healthy, but I've got I've got a suspicion that because the AFC South looks like it's going to come down between Houston and Indy, and the way Joe Flacco's playing, um, he's keeping these guys in the game, and he's not playing the best football, but he's healthy, and we've seen Joe win some games in the past just off of pure grit. I I wonder if this will be a blessing and a curse for Anthony Richardson. Like I said, I really wanted Anthony to stay healthy this season. I wanted him to play every game. I wanted him to use this season as a season of growth. But if he continues to get hurt, then you're the Colts front office and you're sitting there saying, "Well, we brought Joe Flacco in for a reason." I don't know why you don't just continue to play Joe Flacco. I mean, let me look at this right here. I want to look at the standings of the AFC right now. Okay. So, right now, let's do this. Okay. Right now, if the season ended today, Indianapolis would hold the third wild card. And this seems to be, and the next closest team behind them is the Denver Broncos. And I don't really see that sticking too much unless Bo Nix just goes off in this in this second half of the season coming up. But behind them, Miami, no. Jets, not going anywhere. I don't care how much you pay for Devontae Adams. That's a desperation move through and through. I'll get to that in a second. Cincinnati, maybe. I can see Joe Burrow waking up. I can see Joe Burrow leading his team, maybe getting a fire lit under him. But then you got Cleveland, New England, Jacksonville. This is such, like I said at the top, this is such a weak year of football that if you're the Colts, if you're Shane Steichen, I think you go to Ants and you tell him, hey, I really want you to stay healthy. I want you to get healthy. I want you to sit out just for a couple more games, and then maybe kind of just seeing how that progresses. And if Joe continues to help the Colts pull through, then then you obviously keep Joe in the game. But if for some reason Joe begins to falter, then okay. I mean, you obviously okay, Ant, you're ready. Go back in there, show us what you can do. I think this is a situation where the Colts actually have an opportunity to just take their time. Take their time with Anthony Richardson. There's no need to rush them, especially looking. I mean, they're looking at the same thing I'm looking at, and I don't think they feel pressured really at all to put him back in just based of all the teams behind them. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. Me personally, I'd like to see, like I said, I'd like to see Richardson out there. I'd like to see him be able to. Is he coming? He's arrived, everybody. He's here. Yeah.
Hello, JB.
Woo!
Welcome. Welcome to today's episode.
Man, look at you. Hey, guys, we can get started now. Yeah.
I know, finally. Welcome, JB. I've
I
been
know.
waiting for you.
Cheers,
I apologize for my delay.
No, I gave them the breakdown
But
of why we're doing it today, why we're doing it at this time, why I couldn't wait for you. And so, so hopefully.
Life happens, everyone. Life happens. I know you all understand. We are here still to provide you everything that you need to know that has happened in the last 6 days compared to 7, which is a good thing.
So just to catch you up, I ended up I talked about the Cowboys at the top, and juxtaposed it with the reality the reality Cowboys fans live in, juxtaposed with the reality that I live in as a Saints fan. And when I live in hope that they continue
Yes.
to fall, so they can break this whole thing down, can
Yep.
crash and burn. Um, and then I posed
Yep.
a question. Okay, I posed a question. The Cowboys have no run game. So the question I posed
Correct.
was: is there a deal out there for a running back and a receiver that you would take, but it costs you CD Lamb?
No.
No, no.
No. No.
Okay.
No. I would rather take this season as a not even a wash because I don't know what the season will hold, but I would rather take this season as a major L and keep CeeDee Lamb because here's my thing. The Cowboys need running help or running back help, yes. But with the draft that is coming up, nothing would make me better, nothing would make me happier than for the Cowboys to do what they did with Zeke and go on ahead and draft Genty out of Boise State as their marquee running back and then start fresh next year. I would rather keep CeeDee Lamb, draft Genty, and then try again better next year
Yeah.
without McCarthy in the head coaching spot. That is where I sit with
Okay.
that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And like, yeah.
I would rather keep. There's no way. That's like it is arguable that there is. What would you say? Four four wide receivers that are in the top echelon of like top tier wide receivers this year. That would be Justin Jeffries, of course. Justin Jefferson, of course. Um, I would say CeeDee Lamb is up there.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm gonna say AJ
Mm-hmm.
Brown, whenever he's healthy,
Yeah.
is up
Mm-hmm.
there. And oh, what's that scrub's name out of the Bengals organization? I
That
feel like maybe
scrub.
he's up there.
How dare you? How dare you talk about the scrub from Cincy? You got to be ashamed of yourself.
But but I mean those am I missing somebody that I would consider like the top wide receivers in the I mean Tyreek,
I mean, when you
okay.
think about top
But
receivers and
not
you think about that, I mean, you could absolutely put Tyreek there, but he's so much more than just a receiver. He's a Swiss Army knife. And then
mm-hmm.
uh, I
True.
mean, you can sit there and say Malik Neighbors is making his way up there those charts. But he's a
Rookie.
rookie. This is his
Nah,
first
I'm not
year. Um,
I don't buy into rookies too
I mean, the
quickly.
way DeAndre Hopkins gets traded around, I mean, you can sit there and say he still got
Yeah, I
it.
don't know.
So, um, yeah.
Well, who would quick fire? And I'm not trying to like take away from the conversation right now, but just quick fire. Give me your top four receivers in the league. Justin
Mm-hmm.
Jefferson, duh. The next,
I
what
would
are the
agree with
rest?
you. Yeah, I'm not. I'm not. I'm
Okay,
not disagreeing with you here. I'm sitting there and
okay.
like I wouldn't. I don't think I would necessarily trade CD Lamb either, but but just
Mm-mm.
but it as a thought exercise. Okay, like, and it's really a
Sure,
thought exercise
always
as
fun.
of how badly do you want to win, and if it came down to you had to trade CD Lamb in order to increase your odds at making the Super Bowl, not just getting the playoffs, making the Super Bowl, would you do it?
No, because there's not. Not only is CeeDee Lamb one of the top four receivers in my book in the league right now, but at the same time, there is no running back in the league right now that I would say gives you the equal trade value for getting rid of CeeDee
Okay.
Lamb. There's really not.
Okay. All right.
Maybe last year I would have said Christian
Yeah.
McCaffrey, but Christian McCaffrey this year is non-existent. So for those reasons, I would say there's not a chance in hell that I would consider that. And I know where your monologue went this evening, and I have to tell you, uh, let us Cowboys fans be delusional. Allow us Allow us the opportunity to be delusional because what else do we have going for us? Until Jerry Jones decides to sell the team, what else do we have going for the Cowboys as a fan base than hoping that
Yeah.
somehow, some magical way, that organization will stumble into a Super Bowl or an NFC championship? That's all I have to say about your takes.
Here's my question to answer your response. Is it considered a homicide if when is it considered a homicide? Like how many people have to wish and think about the death of someone before it is considered a homicide? So because I can't, it's the only way Jerry Jones is giving up the team is if he dies. So
Yes,
how many
correct.
people does it take to wish the death of somebody before it's committed, before it's considered a homicide? That's what that's what I'm
I would
asking.
I would have I would have to look at how many official Cowboys fans there are, like registered Cowboys fans, and then double it because obviously it's not working with the current fandom.
No, and yeah, so I talked about the Saints. Obviously, I talked about how I've wished they would do that for
Hmm.
years, and even best case scenario for me was that Spencer Rattler did exactly what he did on Sunday, and the Saints got trashed. And
Yeah.
but Mickey Loomis isn't. He's never operated that way. They have kicked the can down the road so many times that they are just they seem willing to just live with the only reality of carrying dead money every single season and just seeing how far
Hmm.
they can.
They
I
love
mean, like, and
they
they're
love
very smart. It's
the
it's it's
NFL.
extremely brilliant what they've come up with, but I mean, it's gotta. I mean, at some point that bubble's going to burst, and I'd rather that bubble burst, like because you decided now I'm going to pop the bubble as opposed to the bubble popping underneath you. And
Yeah.
I suggested that I mean, I want someone to take Derek Carr's contract, and I suggested that maybe Miami would do that. Miami would take Derek Carr because they have no quarterback beyond Tua, and they want Tua to get healthy, but they also want Tua to take his time. And so, if I'm Miami, I know. I mean, I'm 2-3 right now. I'm a half a game
Yeah.
behind the last wild card spot. It's not it's not out of the realm of possibility for them to still make it. Like because like I said, and I'll get to this in a second, but well, I'd say it now. I talked about Indy and how I wanted Anthony Richardson to be healthy this year, but the way Joe Flacco is keeping the Colts in these games, and the way the Colts continue to win with Joe Flacco behind center, if I'm
Yep.
if I'm Chris Ballard, I'm thinking or even Shane Steichen, I'm like, do I even want to risk Richardson going out there right now? Because at the moment, Indy owns the third wild card. They own it. And
Yeah.
every team behind them, you got Denver, Miami, the Jets, the Vegas, Cincinnati, Tennessee, yada, yada. The only team I can actually legitimately see or genuinely see making a run for that first spot as things stand now is Cincinnati. And they're 2-4.
Correct. Well,
I
yeah,
mean,
I
it's such,
know. I
but the whole
know.
point of this, it's such a weak conference. It's so weak, and it's one of those things where if I'm the Colts, do I continue to start Joe Flacco? If he does well, I can continue to ride him. If he doesn't do well, okay, Anthony Richardson's healthy, I can put him back out there. But going back to Miami, I mean, if I'm Miami and I want a quarterback, but I don't want to throw Tua out there again, I don't want to risk him getting a fourth concussion. Maybe I call New Orleans. Hey, what do you want for Derek Carr? What do you want?
Who who do you think? Oh, this is. I feel like this is a weighted question because it's not really that close of an argument. If Miami cap cap space not considered, because let's be honest, cap space is not really real. Teams always find a way to get quote unquote underneath
Yeah,
the cap space, no matter what kind of contract they have. So if you were Miami and hypothetically both of these quarterbacks were on the trade block, who would you rather trade for, Deshaun Watson or Derek
Derek
Carr?
Carr. Derek Carr, and this is coming from somebody who hates Derek Carr as his team starting quarterback. Like that, I, I cannot imagine a world where someone is. I mean, like I can't stand Derek Carr as a starting quarterback, but I
Correct.
also cannot envision anyone looking at what Deshaun Watson has done and say, "Oh, I can fix that." You know, that dude has no desire to do anything. I don't know what's going on in his headspace. I don't know what's happened with that dude, but he has fallen so far off a cliff. Like, forget the legal matters. And you probably can't because
Right.
that's probably playing a really big impact on his mental game. I mean, like, whether he's guilty or innocent, I don't know. But he's the way he's playing. I mean, that dude's head is broken. It's
He's definitely like a whole. He's a
he's
completely
just
different player.
awful.
I was hopeful.
I
I
was
was
too.
hopeful when he came back. Like there was in my mind, I convinced myself that a good quarterback, no matter what goes on in your life, whether you get a break or not, a good quarterback doesn't lose the skill set that made
Yeah.
you good. But apparently, Deshaun Watson is completely
Yeah.
breaking that mindset because he does not look like Deshaun Watson, not even a fraction of a percentile what he did with the Texans. It is mind blowing to me. So I'll add the third quarterback to this argument
Mm-hmm.
for you. If the Dolphins had the choice, Deshaun Watson, Derek Carr, or Trey Lance from the Cowboys, who should they, if they needed to, who should they trade for?
Derek Carr. Derek Carr still
Still,
because even when it comes to Trey Lance, I mean I don't know what's going on with his mental headspace either. This dude just pretty much went up and he didn't get the starting position with San Francisco, and he's like, I'm done. I want out of here. And he's like, I'd rather be a backup in Dallas where I'm never going to play than be a backup in San Francisco where I could play. Like I just it I don't understand where Trey Lance is at. And besides, I never understood the Trey Lance hype in the first place. I never understood why
no.
San Francisco drafted him in the first place.
Yeah, it was a reach, but I feel like in that situation, it was definitely a San Francisco cutting their losses and realizing that Brock Purdy was the better option for them. I don't know that Trey Lance necessarily was the one that initiated that conversation, but he, I feel like he'd be a more reliable, what would I call it, wild card for Miami because of what the potential that he could possibly have, especially in an offense like Miami's
Yeah.
offense. So I would probably consider him over Derek Carr because Derek Carr is old. He's
Yeah.
kind of one dimensional. Everybody's kind of knows what Derek Carr is going to give you. Trey Lance can give you that dual threat
Yeah.
ish quarterback role, and he's
Yeah.
younger. So I
Yeah.
would have to say he
And
would
that
be a
was
better
yeah.
option. And it's
Go ahead.
it's no, I was gonna say it's been a topic of conversation apparently because I've continuously see these like comments saying the Dolphins need to call for Trey Lance. So it's definitely something that's up in the
Yeah.
air. I'm not necessarily saying the
The
Dolphins are doing their due diligence
yeah.
on
The
him, but
only
still.
the only reason I would sit there and argue Trey Lance over Derek Carr is because and it's something that you alluded to is it, it's the factor of the unknown. I don't know exactly what I'm going to get.
Hmm.
He seems like but if I'm a team that's looking at and Trey Lance seems to have more of a skill set that Tua does, and because he's such an unknown still, I can see any offensive coordinator or quarterback coach saying I can mold him. I can mold him into who
Right.
I'd like him to be. So that's the only advantage that Carr has on land, at least in my
And
opinion.
with the coach like with a coach like Mike McDaniel, I could see very close to the Sam Darnold kind of trajectory for Trey Lance, just like being put in the right situation, sitting behind currently
Mm-hmm.
Dak, learning. that side of the ball and then being put into a more explosive kind of, I don't know. Besides explosive, that's the
Yeah.
best way I can describe it. The explosive offense with Mike McDaniel. I feel like he could follow the Sam Darnold type of trajectory that he could still be a really
Yeah.
damn good quarterback
Yeah. Hmm.
for them, for that team. I'm not saying
Yeah.
across the board. For the Dolphins, I could see Trey Lance being a really
He
good
could
fit
be.
for
And
them.
honestly, I don't think
And
he'd be
also,
worse than Tyler Huntley or Skylar Thompson. I don't think he'd be worse. You can't be worse than that. So I mean, if you're that and you're Stephen Ross and you somehow wake up tomorrow and be like, you know what I love, uh, frugality. I think I'm gonna go after Trey Lance. So I I feel like it's the Miami would be the if I'm hypothesizing here, Miami seems to be the best place because Stephen Ross will just throw money at anyone, and he seems to be the one owner that is like, I want to win now. I want to win now,
yep,
and so
yep.
like I said, given between the devil you know and the devil you don't, well, you know Derek Carr, you know what his flaws are. So just make sure Tyreek Hill is 50 yards down the field. Next time Derek Carr's like, oh, let's see what happens if I just throw it blindly in the middle of the field. Let's see what happens. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Either way,
yeah.
did you discuss other major
I
NFL news
discussed
already?
I,
Do we
I,
have
I
to?
discussed the Washington Baltimore game and how that Jaden Daniels wall slowly crashing down. That game against Baltimore. Um, and this was more, and I mentioned this. This was more Washington's defense failing to stop that run game. I mean, Derrick Henry ran all over him, but then I brought up
True.
too. The reason I brought it up is because it was mentioned again that when Jaden Daniels was first drafted, people were saying Jaden Daniels was probably like his trajectory was having a better career than Lamar Jackson. And I'm thinking that's an outrageous claim given just how great Lamar Jackson actually
Yeah,
is. And I made the point too. I said if Jaden Daniels was going to be that great, Chicago wouldn't have drafted Caleb Williams first. They would have drafted Jaden Daniels first. And I said Caleb Williams has
we
what's
argued
that?
that. Here's the we sat here and argued that Jaden Daniels should be considered the first
Yeah.
overall pick compared to Caleb
We did,
Williams.
yeah.
We
But
did
the
that
reason I
argument.
landed, I said I don't disagree with Chicago taking Caleb was because, and I said this tonight, was because Caleb has it. He is just way more talented on a base level than Jaden Daniels is. He's got way more talent, but it's that 5 inches right here where he loses so often. And I'm
Hmm.
not saying that Caleb can't succeed in the NFL, but it's one thing to be an NFL quarterback. It's one thing to be an NFL quarterback of the Chicago Bears. And so you'll have plenty of
Yep.
opportunity to have your headspace, messed with. And so, but that was one of the reasons why I said
Yep.
that, that was also, it was a small reason I said that I think it's foolish to sit there and say Jaden can be better than Lamar. One, we didn't know anything about Jaden, even though whatever I saw him at Arizona State, his first year at LSU, his second year at LSU. I saw that wave. I saw that learning curve he went through that
Correct.
first year at LSU. Didn't even seem like he could throw the ball 20 yards down the field. And then the next season, he
Hmm.
tears up the landscape, wins the Heisman for a bad LSU team, and now he's number 2 pick. So yeah, that's
It'll be the storyline couldn't have been written more perfectly considering the fact that Washington is playing Carolina, so that's
yeah,
whatever. Washington most likely win
yeah.
that game, but then next week we have a Caleb Williams versus Jaden
Mm,
Daniels matchup to fully get a complete picture of what those two quarterbacks are
yeah.
looking like and how they're actually going to compete face to face against each other. most likely for the first time in many years to come, including
Yeah,
playoff matchups in their near
yeah,
future. So we'll get an idea of what both of those quarterbacks have to offer, especially
yeah,
going head to head.
yeah. And just a caveat, Jaden Daniels, like I said, Jaden Daniels didn't play bad against Baltimore. He didn't. But
No, I don't think
no,
he's the
he's
reason they
not the reason
lost.
they lost. It brought to mind that comp of Jaden Daniels to Lamar Jackson, and I was like,
Hmm.
it's not that, you know, I mean, it's not like Lamar Jackson, you know, uh, helped them kind of win the game with his arm. I mean, he's great at their run game too, and so, but
Yeah.
but all of that was to say that there's a long way to go for all the things you wish Lamar Jackson has achieved already, like more playoff wins and a Super Bowl appearance. Out of all the things you wish he's
Hmm.
achieved already, um,
Well, Lamar hasn't been
that's
to
what
the
I'm
Super Bowl
saying.
yet.
Out of all the things you wish he achieved already,
Okay.
which is more playoff wins and a
Oh,
Super Bowl appearance, at least a Super Bowl appearance. Out of all the things you wish he's achieved already, I don't think you can sit there and say because he hasn't done these things, Jaden Daniels is going to have a better career than Lamar Jackson. So yeah,
no. That's too early to make that argument even close. I don't even. I'd have to look back at the actual Lamar Jackson start timeline. I don't even think Lamar was playing at this point in his rookie year. I don't think he was at that point. I think he started playing like week 12
mm-hmm.
for the Ravens
Yeah,
when Joe Flacco kind of got
yeah,
hurt or something around those things. So it's way, way,
yeah,
way too early to be making
yeah,
those comparisons
and
because
then on yeah,
I know for a fact
go ahead.
Lamar Jackson didn't play his whole rookie year. So when he officially became the starter, really did. He was in his second year of
Yeah,
playing NFL style football.
yeah,
So it's
and
really
just
not fair.
to add to it, I remember when Lamar was getting drafted, there were doubts that Lamar's play could even transfer to the NFL. There were doubts aplenty. And so
Oh
another
yeah,
another reason to say I don't think it's fair to say Jane Daniels can do that is because if it wasn't for what we've seen Lamar Jackson do already, aside from what he hasn't accomplished, if Lamar Jackson hasn't done what he's done already,
right.
you can't sit there and say, "Oh, I came up with this about Jaden Daniels because of how he's played." No, it's because his play is so similar to Lamar Jackson. You've seen Lamar Jackson's play translate to the NFL. And so therefore you can sit there and confidently say,
Hmm.
I think Jane Daniels will be fine. So yeah.
Yeah, it's my last note on that. It's very similar to the conversation that people are having recently, justifiably, with the comparison between Patrick Mahomes and Tom
Mm-hmm.
Brady, saying is Patrick Mahomes already better than Tom Brady considering
Yeah.
his current stats, and Jaden Daniels considering how what Lamar Jackson has done. This is one of those arguments that you really have to sit back and wait until those players retire or leave the league and to fully assess
Yeah.
what they really did. Because I wouldn't put Mahomes over Tom Brady
Yeah.
right now because Mahomes is still playing and there's still so much he
Yeah.
has to prove. In the same way that I wouldn't put Jaden Daniels over Lamar Jackson because Jaden Daniels is 6 weeks into his
Yeah.
NFL career and Lamar Jackson is
Yeah.
still playing and a lot that
Yeah.
he could prove and separate that
Yeah.
gap between them
Yeah.
two.
And before we leave the NFL football segment, I want to give a shout out to NJR. I told you I'd shout you out if the Cowboys did, in fact, pounce all over the Lions and Dak Prescott feasted all day. What I did not tell you, I was going to give you a shout out when inevitably the Cowboys did exactly what I thought they would, which is fall flat on their face at home for the worst home loss since before Jerry Jones bought the team. So, congratulations, NJR. You still made the pod. Congratulations. Um,
There you go. You're
let's
welcome.
move on to baseball. I'm watching game 3 right now, the Mets and Dodgers. Mets have a runner on with 2 outs, and Polar Bear is at the plate. So we'll see what he can do against Walker Bueller. Looks like he's going to strike out. Okay, inning over. So
What is your On that note, what is your impression on the current National League Conference
I
Series?
love it. I love it. The two funnest teams to watch, I believe, made it. As much spunk as San Diego had, I don't think it even came close to matching the energy that the Mets have. The Mets have such energy, and the Mets and Padres didn't
Mm-hmm.
meet before uh, before the LCS, but um, I am excited to see the Dodgers in the LCS. I'm excited to see what they could do. My thought process is that maybe Dave Roberts unlocks something and he's able to really finally figure out how to use this pitching staff. I think his big thing is going to be not pulling the starters too soon. That game 5 against San Diego, he pulled
Mm-hmm.
Yamamoto after he was cruising after 5. And then Alex Vesia ends up getting hurt. One of their best bullpen arms. He gets hurt. And, you know, even though the Dodgers end up winning that game, you know, I was telling some people that I think this is going to be something where this is going to haunt Dave Roberts in the LCS, where he's going to overuse his bullpen. And there's no team that's better at attacking a bullpen that is just depleted than the New York Mets are. I feel like
Yep.
these two teams are very well matched up against each other because each team like attacks the opponent's flaw the best, I believe. Just like the Mets, I believe, attack a depleted bullpen and they can jump all over it. I think the Dodgers are able to make the Met starters look silly. I think just that offense is able to make the starters look silly because of all the talk of how Severino did, Manaya did, Kodai Senga did, of all that talk of how they did, the Dodgers have they did a great job against Kodai Senga, just blowing him up. And game 2 was, the Dodgers kind of coming away, trying to come away with it late. I'm curious to see how the Dodgers handle Severino. I really am. I want to see how soon Severino actually comes out the game. If the Dodgers can make him run his pitch count up, if they can get enough high velocity contact off of him that Carlos Mendoza's like, okay, you're done. We got to move to the bullpen and then see how the Dodgers handle that. So, which in game 2 we saw the Dodgers handle the
Yeah.
bullpen quite well. It's just there's a human called Kike Hernandez who continues to come to the plate in big moments and continues to not deliver in big moments. So I know he went on live
Yep.
television and was
True.
asked a rhetorical question, "Are we live?" and said, "We don't give enough." But clearly, I mean, he didn't really pull through in game 2. So that's what I'm curious to
Yep.
see here.
So here's my thing with the Dodgers, and this is a multifaceted take. First off, I wanted to start by saying what happened. I'm curious what the heck actually happened to San Diego because they ended up going scoreless since
Yeah.
Game
Mhm.
3 of the
Yeah.
DS series against the Dodgers, and it was, at least in my book, it was not expected for the Padres to go
No.
completely cold on their
No.
offense. That was not something we expected, especially
They
considering the fact that the
was
concern
their
for the
pitching.
Dodgers was
Yeah.
that their bullpen and their
Mhm.
pitching.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Their pitching was supposed to be the biggest reason that they might be in danger of losing. And
Yeah.
as of Game 3, either the pitching was. You can't have it both ways and say the pitching was a problem, and
Right.
yet the pitching was the reason that they won the
Yeah.
DS against the
Yeah.
Padres.
You
You can't
can't.
have it both ways.
Yeah.
At the same time, I want to say, where is the further excuse in the LCS against the Mets? Because up until Game 2,
They had
they were, what
30
was
scoreless
the
innings.
final
It was 30 scoreless innings. Yeah.
30
Yeah.
score, yeah, 30
Yeah.
scoreless innings from the. So again, back
Yeah.
to that same argument. Either your pitching is a problem or your pitching is the
Yeah.
reason you're winning. You can't have it both ways. And I want somebody to sit here and tell me which one it is. Because apparently your pitching is really good
Mhm.
sometimes for five
Yeah.
games straight, or your pitching is the reason
Yeah.
you want to make the exception of why they can't
Yeah,
move any
I
further.
think I think it's a twofold answer because, and it's a great question because this was the Achilles heel of the Dodgers for years prior to this. For every single season they've been in the playoffs, their pitching was their Achilles heel, and so even them going out and getting Shohei, well, Shohei's not pitching, so that was great to be able to bring him in the
Right.
lineup. And of course, we all saw what he did. He was almost a 60-60 guy, for that offense. You you brought in Glasnow, who got hurt, and Bueller obviously got hurt. Dustin May got hurt again. Kershaw got hurt again. Everyone got hurt again. Yamamoto struggled in those big moments. He struggled in Game 1 against San Diego. We saw that
Yep.
happen. But then um, I think it came down to Dave Roberts is managing because he knows his job is on the line. He knows it is. If the Dodgers do
Mm-hmm.
anything short of getting to the World Series, he's fired. He's done. And I don't. I honestly I can't argue that. I can't because he's got nothing but the best of the best. It seems, except of course, I mean, you can make the argument for pitching, but they've had a plethora of pitching. They've always had starters, and they've had. I mean, Tony Gonsolin was a starter, and then they brought in more guys that put him to the bullpen. Those guys get hurt, he comes back to the starter, and he's still. I mean, he's extremely usable as a starter. I mean, he was sometimes
Mm-hmm.
better than league average. And so I think Dave Roberts has figured out, okay, look, I'm going to trust my gut here. I'm going to throw my starters out there. I know Yamamoto was cruising through Game 5 of that division series against the Padres, but I'm going to pull him. I'm going to use my bullpen. I'm going to use the strength here, and I'm going to try
Mm-hmm.
to do this mix and match. And so, and I'm going to use this, and I'm going to segue to the ALCS. Stephen Vogt has done an unbelievable job with Cleveland. Cleveland has made it so far. Cleveland made it further than I thought they would because I didn't think how they played ball at the beginning of the season was projectable to be a high seed in the playoffs. I just didn't. They didn't seem to have a lot of power. They seemed to play small ball. They put the ball in play. The pitching obviously eventually caught up. Bybee became an ace for this squad. But Vogt seems to be, he's got the opposite of Dave Roberts. Dave Roberts has been in the position where he's seen what happens when he screws it up, when he doesn't deploy the pitchers and the players in the proper moments. Stephen Vogt, this is his first year. He hasn't learned that yet. And that's a good thing and it's a bad thing. He is playing every single game. He's managing every game as if it's a must win. And so last night, he brings in Cade Smith, who's their best reliever, aside from Clace. Cade Smith is shut down. He's a shutdown guy. He brings him out, I think, in the third inning. And so it's like super early because he's like, we have to win this game. Yankees,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, they end up winning the
Yep.
game to get a 2-0 series lead. They go to Cleveland for tomorrow. But I think it's that right there that is going to cost Cleveland and is going to help Dave Roberts in LA. I think Dave Roberts has learned. I think he's kind of figured this out. And so that's kind of where I'm landing on this. This is why as much as I would love to see a Subway series, I would love to see a Subway series. I would much more love to see Shohei against Judge in the World Series. I would love to see Freddie
Yeah.
Freeman versus Juan Soto in the World Series. I mean, the star power between both of these
Yeah.
teams is just incredible. And so I'm pulling.
Yeah. That's why
Yeah,
I sat here and that's why I sat here and told you last week. Nothing better than nothing. It would be more salivating for
yeah,
Manfred than having the Dodgers versus a Yankee series. It would be the marquee matchup between what I would consider the greatest players in the MLB
yeah,
across the board between the Dodgers rosters and
yeah.
the Yankees Dodgers. They
Mhm.
have the I I have a hard time thinking of what two
Yeah.
rosters would match up to be the best rosters
Yeah.
for a World
Yeah.
Series matchup.
Yeah. And as a Cubs fan, I would love to see Juan Soto join the Cubs, but that's never going to happen because, uh, the freaking Kenneys are never going to spend money ever. Um, but um, I would love um, for the Yankees to win the World Series for the mere fact that I'm hoping it keeps Juan Soto in pinstripes.
Oh man, that would be make me
Yeah,
so. That would
yeah,
give me
yeah,
hope for the future, and that is a perfect segue to
yeah,
us to talk about that
yeah. And
ALCS perfectly
I need to
because
correct myself. Not the Kenneys. I'm thinking of Crane Kenny. The Ricketts. The Ricketts on the Cubs. They're never going to. Tom
oh
Ricketts is never going to spend a dime. He's never going to spend a dime to help his team in any meaningful way. So, yeah, but to see the Yankees be able um, to see the Yankees be able to retain Soto and to have the Yankees kind of back on the the mountaintop of baseball. That's wonderful to see. But then on the flip side of that, that means Aaron Boone keeps his job, and that's a terrible thing. So it's a catch 22. It's a catch 22. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I will say this about the Yankees: I have been impressed with their current. I'm glad they're 2-0 because last night, Game Two, they made me nervous, especially when Aaron Boone was trying to get his money's worth when it came to Cole
yeah.
leaving him on the mound after multiple
He was
bases
laboring out
loaded
there.
innings.
He was laboring.
It was it made me it
The
made
way,
yeah.
yeah,
Kudos to
yeah,
him. He didn't back down from the challenge. Ultimately, the second
yeah,
bases loaded that he faced, they ended up
yeah,
having to take him out because I mean at that point he was not hitting on the spot. But what I will say about the Yankees and the way they found a way to win is that this is something that I've been on with the Yankees really all year. I feel like I've been harping on it for a while. The Yankees, the last two games, have found a way to win, not through their home runs, but
yeah,
through their base hitting and through
yeah,
their walks and their really
yeah, yeah.
not their base running, but
Definitely that base running.
getting
Yeah,
on base, not
no,
their base running.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
But the fact that they're getting runs because of their base
yeah,
getting on base and
mhm,
stacking up those at base appearances with their walks and their base hits and just stacking those up. And even during the time when Aaron Judge was cold, they were putting him in an opportunity where a sac fly was still counting for something compared to him just
yeah,
being a pop out or a fly out for
yeah,
no score. It was reassuring to see that they can win games by hitting base hits compared to just relying on home
yeah.
runs to win the game.
Well, with that, I know I said fix of six at the top, folks, but we're gonna have to cut that out of this episode. I got a date with the wife I got to get to. So, um,
You know,
oh, look at that! What a catch! 1-0 Dodgers. There we go. All right.
there you go. At the end for the
Yeah.
Mets.
Well, folks. Oh, it's 2-0 Dodgers. Never mind. Um. Uh. Manny, you're on a flight tomorrow. Good luck to you, sir.
I will be home. I
Good luck to
will.
you.
May the wings of the airlines flights be ever steady.
Absolutely.
I will be on my
Yeah.
way home tomorrow.
And to the rest of you folks, hope you guys enjoyed your long weekend. If you had it, enjoy football starting tomorrow night with the Saints and the Broncos. Let's all pray that the Saints come crash and burn. Let's all pray this. From one Saints fan to the rest of you, we want this to happen. And
And as a Cowboys fan, thank God we have a bye week. That's
and with that, folks, you guys know where to find us. BSB Sports 24, TikTok, Instagram, Box Scores and Bourbon, Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, with the video pod uploaded to each episode. And with that, stay thirsty, folks.
Cheers, everyone. See you on the other side.